And it's time now for weather with Nebraska Extension Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. However, Al is off this week, but we did have time before he left to give us an update on the current weather conditions related to the La Nina pattern.
Hello everybody. I'm on vacation this week up in northern Michigan doing my annual pruning of the orchard, and like everybody else, this is the time of the year when we start to want to get in the fields and when I want to get out into the orchard and do things. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity, since we can't do a weekly weather forecast, to kind of give you an update on the current conditions in terms of the La Nina that was responsible for, in large part, the development of the drought last year and the continuation of it right now. More importantly, of course, with the La Nina event is what is the status of it, because double dip La Ninas usually come back to bite you pretty strong during the growing season, especially if it's the strength or close to the strength of the previous La Nina event. The good news is we've seen some radical changes over the last few months, and in association with those changes, we've also seen some changes in terms of the precipitation patterns, particularly across the Central Plains. So if we take a look at the La Nina status that was at its peak as we were into toward the end of December, you'll notice that a very large cold anomaly over the equatorial Pacific. This is a classic La Nina signal. Now, as we look forward to the most current map that we have, which is from the 20th, we notice that that large signature has largely disappeared and is shrinking. Most of the contributing factors from it now are coming from the Gulf of Alaska low, bringing cold currents down to the equatorial Pacific, and we've shut off the flow from the Antarctic region, so most of this area is shifted much toward the north. We're also seeing the development of a warm pool in the eastern equatorial Pacific, and underneath of the ocean, there is no cold water all the way from Australia, basically all the way into the eastern equatorial Pacific, and it's all coming to the surface, so we'd expect this area to expand, and that does have some implications in terms of the forecast going forward. From a drought monitor perspective, there has been some significant reductions in drought in the Central Plains. A lot of this due to that very inclement period from about the middle of January all the way through the big storm that we had in March. Significant moisture, although we may be just a little bit stronger in terms of dryness across the panhandle of the southwest than is currently depicted. If we don't receive precipitation, we'll probably see this area rapidly intensify as we go into the warmer season. More importantly, looking at the precipitation pattern since the beginning of the year, you can notice that the anomaly for above normal moisture is centered right over in Nebraska and Kansas. We have actually seen pretty decent moisture. We are still carrying some deficits from last fall, particularly across the northeast and north central and portions of the panhandle, but overall a much better scenario than we were facing last fall. Now, as we go into the CPC's forecast for the precipitation for this summer, I'll draw your attention to this first map, which is essentially the next 3 months, May, June, and July. Biggest area of dryness to our northwest, lighter dryness to the southern plains, and as we go into the August, September, October period, you can see that they're shifting that up toward the northern plains and shrinking it. Right during the period of June, July, and August, this entire area moves over into the northern plains, into the central plains. My personal opinion is, based on the way the storm activity has been going recently, where we're seeing cutoff lows forming almost on a regular basis for every system that comes into either the Pacific Northwest or the northern plains, that we're likely to see this trend continue with the equatorial Pacific wide open, particularly in the east, and warmer pool underneath coming to the surface. We're going to see much more evaporation. That means that we'll probably see much more enhanced southern jet, and that's probably why you're seeing a lot of the southern plains, which we would expect to be drier than normal, showing up as climatological means, meaning big equal chances of receiving above normal, below normal, or normal precipitation. Additionally, the monsoon moisture in the southwest looks to be pretty prominent with that above normal moisture. That usually induces late summer thunderstorm activity across the central and southern plains. So I think we're going to see a much more promising forecast. The further north you go, the more uncertainty, of course, we have. So pay attention. These weather systems that move through the month of May are going to be very important at keeping the drought from the northern plains from expanding toward the southeast.